Hey y'all, Carolina Tony here. Today the road brings me to Lando, South Carolina. It's about an hour and a half from my home. And all these years that I have been studying and investigating textile mills, I found out there is a textile museum that's very close to me and it's open. We're going to go inside and take a look. I have found a gentleman that's going to show me around and show me some things that I could never imagine, and you get to come with me. And we'll get started right after this station identification. This is the Lando History Center. It is housed in the former corporate office and company store of the Manetta textile mill. We're going to go inside and explore. If it doesn't look that old, that's because the brick has been resurfaced over the years. I'm going to show you inside what the original brick looked like. So these bricks were made right here in the area.
Yes, sir, sometime around 1905. Kilns.
Oh.
That's the kilns they fired the brick in.
Uh-huh. So the bricks that built the store.
Yes.
This is where they would have been dried at, in the kiln right there. That was the kiln.
They had their own railroad, a spur railroad that ran up to the southern end of Edgemore. And railway.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the E&M.
E&M, Edgemore, Manetta. Yeah, Edgemore and Manetta Railway.
So it was a very short railway.
2 miles up to Edgemore, South Carolina, to connect with the Southern Railroad.
Okay.
In order to haul freight up there.
So the E&M Railroad ran from here.
Yes.
To Edgemore.
Yes. And one of the original engines is still in a park out in Richburg, South Carolina.
So this would have been where that short line train came, right through here.
Came down across and came into Lando. That's pretty evident by now we pick up cross ties.
We see cross ties. Well, there's no denying. A railroad trestle. Now, when do you think this would have been used last?
I would say in the 80s. I'm not.
The 1980s?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow.
There's documentation up there on the wall that says it finished pretty.
Oh, this is past cool here. This is like something that a movie company would get to film a movie. This is like a filming location. There's a boat down there. So at Manetta Mills in Lando, South Carolina, this are the actual loonies. Basically money that was given to the employees so they could exchange it for goods in the company store, right?
Yes. And it was also used in between pay periods to pay people. They could come redeem it at the company store.
Been the first manufacturing company here in this area prior to the Manetta Mills was the Fishing Creek Manufacturing Company. And this is where the original Fishing Creek Manufacturing Company was. Looking at these ledgers, in 1940, Lawrence Gibson worked 4 hours and earned $13. The original charter of a corporation for the mill, right?
Yes.
And this would have been when?
It should have been 1886.
And these are the owners?
Yes.
Osgood Heath, 1856 to 1916. Allen what's it? He's probably his father.
Yes. All
And,
sons.
and then Benjamin would have been the grandfather.
Yes.
So the one that started it right here. Great.
I believe so, yes.
And then his son.
Yes.
And then his son.
Yes.
A fire insurance survey. Now, what would that actually been? What's the purpose?
An outside company would come in and do a assessment of the firefighting capabilities of the company, and then the insurance underwriter would take that assessment and put a quote on it.
Now, what year would this have been?
That's what I was looking at. And they're hard to find. This is 1929. That one's probably in the 50s. This is the oldest one. I believe this is around 1908.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a good drawing too.
Yeah, it's very good.
Now these are the ledgers.
Pay books.
Pay books.
Those are all pay books.
So long before computers,
Yep. And
we wrote everything down we did.
And one of the things I wish I had known, a lot of these, I guess for government purposes, before Ancestry became a very big thing, for government purposes, the employees' parents' names were recorded. So if you didn't know your great-great-grandparents'
So I don't
mother's
see.
maiden name,
So I don't see names in here.
no, there's names at the top.
Oh, there's names at the top. Okay. So this would have been this individual, and this is where everything he made.
Yeah,
Wow.
and these are kind of scattered up. We don't have complete.
Section here, this would have been the offices of Manetta Mills. And it looks like it's probably furnished for probably around the early 1900s, 1940 maybe.
Yep.
This is pre-computer. That's called a typewriter for those that don't know. This is an early map of the mill village. And all the circles represent the housing. And here was the mill. And this is where we are right now. Here. These were streets right here that went down to where some of the mill houses were. They're all gone now, growing over. There's still a few. Let's ride around and see what we can find though. See how the town was laid out. Lots of streets, no houses. Okay, bank. I think that's self-explanatory. That's where they kept all the money.
All these pictures down this hall are people that from the community. They're all donated by relatives as a way of remembering who was here before us.
So, all of these folks were landheads.
Yes, sir, they were. From Lando that we can find a picture of that served in the armed forces. They have a picture.
Okay.
There are 4 women in here that were in the, I guess that was what, the Women's Auxiliary Corps during World War II. So they were represented. We have people all the way up to Global War on Terror in here.
All these service members that worked in the mill. Out of all those service members, these were the mill workers that served in armed forces that lost their lives. That is a very small number.
But this was all phenomenal work.
This is a setup like a doctor's office. It wasn't actually here at the mill.
It was downstairs.
This was downstairs.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Their own doctor.
So the mill had their own doctor, and this was downstairs. No, really. Cocoa
Quinine.
quinine. That don't even sound good. Is a representative of the school that would have been down the street.
Yes, sir. There's a picture of it in here, and you can walk down there.
Okay.
The school was built in 1905 and served all the way up until the late 40s, I believe. And the paneling on the
So that is what the school building looks like now?
Yes, sir. It still looks kind of like that.
We are in Lando, and this is Schoolhouse Road. Typical old mill houses. With a mill house dog talking to us. And at the end of Schoolhouse Road, of course, is the schoolhouse.
It's still standing. It's on the National Historic Register.
I had a chemistry set like that. And my most favorite thing was baking soda and vinegar in a test tube with a cork. And this is what a typical mill house kitchen would have looked like with a Maytag washing machine. Cooking with gas. This would have been the mill president's office, but now it is a representation of a mill village house.
I would say the living room, bedroom area of the Mill Village House. I remember everybody just about had the same furnishings. I remember a lot of this stuff out of my grandmother's house.
A child's coffin.
Yes, sir. That came from downstairs. It was self-sustaining.
So this building had everything.
Had everything. Like I said, it had an ice house, and when we go back around there, there's an old meat cooler, meat locker, whatever, because one of the things I've been going through, and I'd like to locate it, I've talked to the guy who was former mill owner. They have their own livestock farm because, you know, at one point in time you would have to have mules for hauling things, and then also they...
This side of the building we're going into would have been the store, correct?
Yes, sir.
And still more employees. And all these photographs have been donated by those that actually worked here as well as family members. And they even had their own ice house, and this is the walk-in freezer. You can reach in and get your chilled meat.
Yeah. And over here, this little platform used to be a trap door that they would raise ice up through the floor. Like I said,
So the ice would have been stored in the basement where it's cool.
No, they would have made the ice.
They would have, okay, so in the basement, they made the ice in the basement. But they would raise it up so you could get it in here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna have to mention this in a general store, and because we are in the South, no museum that would be fit and proper would be a museum unless it had a moonshine still. Here's one right here. And there is the mill. The school, and a typical mill house, and a shadow box with old stuff in it. Old Dr. Pepper bottle. And milk of magnesia maybe. In this little area would have been another company store prior to the one that's here now that would have... This is the store that is right next to the museum now that used to be a store. So this would have been the original store. Been in the early to mid 1900s.
Very early 1900s, late 1800s, and the doctor's office was right there.
Oh, really? So to go to see the doctor, he went right through there?
Yes, sir.
This area here is where the mill would actually been. Well, down here.
Yes, sir. Straight down here. One end of here.
Uh-huh.
Ran past that elevator shaft, all the way off over into the distance almost all the way down.
So all the mill workers in the beginning would walk from the mill village on top of the hill down?
Yes, sir. This is the blanket warehouse
Right here?
This area right here. And then this is in the middle where the elevator shaft was. Some of the only remnants of...
So 5 stories.
Yep. It's just a loading dock.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of tractor trailers getting around in there.
This would have been the floor of the blanket warehouse?
Yes, sir. I believe the blanket warehouse.
And we hear a waterfall. Or we hear water running.
You hear the dam.
Uh-huh.
I know there's one upstream.
Right.
Somewhere in here, because there was a wooden dam originally.
Uh-huh.
The wooden dam, you had the sluice gates and
And the waterfalls right over there. We cannot get to them, not without a lot of effort. So that little tower, like beyond the kiln, possibly the intake from the dye room. That diversion canal would have went right by there.
yes, sir.
Oh, I see the brick there. So that would have been a warehouse right there. And that looks like a pipe that would have had some type of liquid in it.
It's part of the water, probably fire suppression system. We could probably find that on that map that I showed you in the company store.
So you tell by those cars kind of dates what the mill looked like. That would have probably been the 60s or 70s perhaps.
I would say the late 70s.
Yeah.
Because you got an AMC, I believe that's a Pacer in there.
Uh-huh.
Or it might be a Gremlin.
And so that parking lot would have been right here with the mill in the background.
At the front of the mill.
In this area, either where the fire department is, the Lando Fire Department, or this little area here is where the Unity Church was. This particular church has services for everyone. That means all denominations. And here is the a photograph of the Unity Church. Okay, it says Old Baptist Church, but we believe that was Unity Church. I was told right next to the school there is the remnants of a cemetery. Here's something right here perhaps. Let's see. Like right here. Stephen Aldrich, 1863 to 1897. And Lena Estelle, his wife, 1868 to 1897. And of course, his gravestone's been knocked over and broken. Maybe a tree, I hope. Let's hope that was a tree. Wow. This loom was primarily used to, what we call it, weave?
Yeah, weave.
Weave denim cloth, right?
Yes. X3s are what would be used to weave clothing and things like that, I believe. Like I said, this was donated. This isn't a representation of a loom that would have been in Manetta Mills. So they would have been much, much larger to make blankets on.
And the person that puts the spindles on,
Bobbins.
those are bobbins.
Yes, sir.
This here is a shuttle, and it is inserted in the end.
Here.
Uh-huh.
It would have to be pushed back from here.
Right. But the bobbin is inside of that.
The bottom's inside of that, and
Yes.
the yarn spins off as it's going back and forwards. And the way it went back and forwards is you had these, which were just basically baseball bats, one at each end that smacked the shuttle.
So it went back and forth.
That's the clack, 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 clack.
Yeah.
In the room.
So this thing with force would push that all the way across between the fibers, the individual fibers.
Yes, as this went up and down, it would open it up in different sequences to make whatever weave you were doing, whether it's herringbone or just straight weave or left hand thread, right hand.
Okay, here's something I think is pretty cool. This toolbox is typical of a mechanic in the mill.
Fixer.
A fixer. I've heard that name before. A fixer in the textile mill. And I had one of these that belonged to my grandfather for many, many years. And unfortunately, me not knowing the value of something when I was in my early adulthood, threw it in the trash. Stupid me.
So my mom remembers the post office at the back of it.
So this is the post office, that it would have been at the back of the building?
Yes, sir. And there's been a post delivery here at somewhere on this property since 1821.
Man.
That is what we use as our say.
So that's original post office say.
I believe that was used up until this closed.
And some of you younger people are not going to have a clue what this is, but this is a telephone. Postmaster or postal employee would take people's mail such as this and stuff it in the little cubby hole, and on the other side, combination lock, and you would go to perhaps 156 and get your mail. This mill started, it was water powered.
Yes, sir.
So it was water powered, and at some point along the line, I'm imagining it went electric.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It was water powered with the the old leather belts and
Now you were telling me about these quilts.
blankets.
Yeah, these blankets. So all these blankets were made at the Manetta mill.
Yes, sir. And they're all from all different companies. They did contract work for. There's Lady Pepperell. There's some Cannon blankets up there. I believe there's Fieldcrest blankets up there. They were primarily a blanket manufacturing company.
Right. A lot of blankets. So Cannon, Monticello Cannon was made at Manetta Mills. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, that is going to be a wrap for our trip to Lando, South Carolina, to the Lando's History Center and the former site of the Manetta Textile Mills. It has been awesome learning all about this place, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to share it with your family and friends. And until next time, y'all have a good day.